Okay, we are back with TeslaFix. This week we're trying to determine Mercedes-Benz. Are they doomed? I'm Brian. Welcome to my Tesla weekend. So for those who don't know TeslaFix, Jan got a channel here. Look at these guests. He's got Amy on here. He's got Lars. He's got Lee from Tesla Economist. John from Silicon Valley Owners Club. All kinds of great folks. Oh, what a lineup. What a lineup. I'm showing it on screen. And yet, less than a couple thousand subscribers. What's going on? He'll get that fixed because he does great work. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
No, I love it.
I'm glad
I love
to be
it.
here.
It's a very good channel. But of course, if I've got questions about German manufacturers, I have got to talk to someone who has a deeper insight, who has probably seen more models than we even have available in the US.
Yeah, that might be true, yes.
Yeah. A lot of the compelling models we just don't get from across the different manufacturers.
That's true.
So Mercedes, let's talk engineering. How the EQS is more efficient than most other EVs. By the way, this one was the disappointment of the century because the CGI concept was radical. And then the physical concept they built, you're like, well, it's not as radical, but it's still so good. And then what they delivered was a bar of soap.
Yeah, that's a pretty good analogy. Yeah, actually, it really looks like a bar of soap. Like they had the clay model and just moistened their hands and just rubbed on the model a few times. That's how it looks. It really looks like a soap.
So Mercedes has been, in terms of internal combustion engineering, in terms of the whole package, very good at their engineering. They've made very fast cars. They've made very comfortable cars. But in terms of their electric drivetrain, give us some insights. How is it?
So I would say the electric drivetrain is fine. Everything I would say in that direction. I think Mercedes' advantage is the build quality in terms of on the highway, for example, the noise dampening is very good. The I don't know how it's called, the hydraulics or the dampers.
Suspension.
The suspension.
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah, the suspensions are very good, actually. So this is the key of Mercedes, the feeling on the road. So this is unprecedented. I would say even Tesla isn't as close as this. A friend of mine has an EQS, actually, and he also works for Mercedes, so he knows a lot of stuff connected with him. And he says he tested it Model Y versus the EQS, and he really said like he had a hands-on. He drove there to the dealer with this EQS and tested the Model Y and then compared it directly. So he said really much it's a total different game in that sense. Also, it's much more quiet than the Mercedes. So this is the kind of engineering what you would expect from Mercedes. But the drivetrain is solid, I would say. Is it the Plaid motor? No, it isn't. But it's up there. It's pretty good, I would say. Yeah.
And Mercedes is still really in their first generation of electric efforts. I am not surprised that the ride is more comfortable and quiet. I would hope that it would be, especially considering the price tag is no joke on these. It is very high. Looking at this image here, we can see, no, they still don't have any sort of real frunk to speak of.
No, they don't have any frunk. So that's just a big HEPA filter in front. So they claim it is because of the HEPA filter. It has a bigger HEPA filter than Tesla has, but Tesla still has the room for a frunk and has a HEPA filter. So Mercedes can't really hide behind this claim.
How does their efficiency do?
You mean range-wise?
Yeah, range versus watt hours per mile sort of thing. Is it reasonable?
Yeah. Okay, you've heard that the EQS has more range than Tesla's Model S and stuff like this. That's because they have much more batteries inside of this, and this means the efficiency is actually not as good, but the range is higher in some models. So this means Mercedes really, they are much heavier. So they're less efficient in that sense. There's no one even close to Tesla in that regard. So I would say, are they efficient? they are heavy and they have a lot of range, so this is good. Not the heavy part, but that they have a lot of range. Yeah, but that's very important for Mercedes because people are used to drive with them like for 450 kilometers at least. Yeah.
And the comfort is going to carry some weight. The sound dampening is going to carry some weight. But the AMG-ized version of the EQS weighs 1,083 pounds more than the Model S Plaid. That is 3 tons. That is a big... So that will definitely count against them in engineering in my book. Mm-hmm. The frunk is... Some people say, I never use it. I've only been on a couple of road trips in a Tesla, and we always used it, but we were always on road trips. So I guess that's all a different matter. But total space you have is good. And the frunk is great for putting things that you don't want stolen quite as easily as bashing a window. Mm-hmm. But that's, again, not a ubiquitous use case. That's only for some people. In terms of engineering... what are you giving them?
So since I've given the last time we've talked BMW, I've gave them an 8, I think.
Yes.
And I can't give them lower than an 8 now because I've already locked in my my estimation here. So I would give an even like a 9, but I still count more of the engineering in the sense that they have a big range. And they like the heavy part is really bad, so this reduces it maybe a little bit more. I'm too high right now. I would say I would give them a 7 now, and I would give BMW a 6 in that sense with engineering now. But if we're in that ballpark, at least 8. Let's say at least 8. They're up there, of course. I think when you consider also the suspension and everything.
So I'm giving them a 7, which is the same I gave BMW because. It's a lot easier to just stuff extra batteries in and deal with the weight than it is to make a more efficient and effective car. But their engineering, like you said, for the cabin, for the suspension, is fantastic. They know how to build cars.
Yeah.
Forgetting the drivetrain for a second, everything else they know how to build all day. When they put out new models constantly, and they're reasonably compelling and all that. So let's look at...
When they don't look like a soap.
Well, they had to make it slippery.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I know.
So looking at demand, they sell over 2 million a year, which for a luxury brand is no joke.
Pretty high.
Now, we're not counting their commercial vehicles, their heavy vehicles, although those... Boy, if they could electrify those, even with 100 miles of range, they'd have a significant addressable market.
Yeah, especially the Sprinter is a very popular delivery van.
Oh, yeah.
So the Sprinter is a big deal if they could electrify it. We have some versions that are electrified, but still not, it's not many. So still
So we've got,
there.
In terms of demand for their electric cars, I'm dinging points because they're already, in my opinion, not cost competitive with the competition. They are too expensive for what they are. Even though they're nice, even though they're quick, they don't have the horsepower of some of the other electric competitors, and they don't have, and their price is just astronomical.
Yeah, it's really insane, actually.
Yeah. So for demand, I'm going lower. I'm going all the way down to 6.
Okay, so we have the number that in Q1 they've sold around 50,000
right.
EVs.
And for reference, BMW was at 61,000.
So BMW was higher, right?
Higher, but only barely.
So for demand, I would. It's still a niche, and I don't think that they can. Yeah, I would say 7, around 7 or something.
Okay, quite reasonable.
That ballpark. Yeah.
Quite reasonable. In terms
but the price is astronomical. It's not payable. Actually, it's crazy.
In terms of cost controls, Again, just like BMW, they only have 2 million of production worth of factories that they need to retool. That will be helpful. Their free cash flow has been quite good. Let's see, cash flow. Yeah, it's been reasonable. It's been positive almost always, again, except for the full year ending 2021, because those were tough days. But often they have free cash flow in the 20 billion-ish range, and in 2022 it was almost 4 billion. So I think that in terms of cost controls, I don't think they're badly positioned. I think they know, especially if they're able to actually sell these cars at these huge prices, I think their cost controls are going to be reasonable. They do have less cash flow than BMW despite higher production. So I'm going to give them a 7 for cost controls because they've still got a lot of retooling to do.
Yeah, I would agree with that. 7 is a reasonable number in that, or rating in that sense.
Yeah, and they've got good control on that. For cash on hand, 26 billion. Down from 40 billion in 2021, but of course they had a storm to get through, as it were. But up from September of last year at 23, they're now at 26 billion cash on hand. That is enough to retool 3, 4, maybe even 5 factories. And the fact that they've been engineering, researching, and developing these vehicles without destroying their cash is encouraging to me. So for cash on hand, I'm going, honestly, I'm going to say it's going to be a 7 or 8 for me. I think I'm going to go 8.
Yeah, it's pretty good, I think. They still can invest in their strives to EVs. And I would say from all the German manufacturers, even in the niche, they're, I think, better positioned than BMW in that sense. I mean, because, again, it's about the DNA of the company, and I would say people would still buy a Mercedes, even if it's electrified, in comparison to because the hardcore fans of BMW are very strong in the internal combustion engine market. So I'm not sure. So that's why I would give Mercedes also like a 7 or 8 in that ballpark. Let's say.
Well, you gave BMW a 7 for cash on hand. So would you give Mercedes an 8?
It would be the same in that sense, because BMW also had a lot of cash on hand, but overall I'm tending like a little bit more to Mercedes but it's still 7.
So let's talk about the roadmap. Mercedes says it'll go all electric in 2030, but with a major caveat. And what is that caveat? Do you know? Is it that they're going to include plug-in hybrids in that number? Mercedes will commit 47 billion to the electrification of its lineup by 2030. Well, that must include the ongoing R&D as well as everything else. The company hinted at some new products. They've got the new EQXX with the ultra-high efficiency. But they want to be all-electric-ish by 2030.
Yeah, that's what I meant with if you compare to BMW. So the roadmap, looks a little bit different than BMW, of course, because they
stronger.
Yeah, absolutely stronger. Yeah.
Yeah, the EQXX is targeting 621 miles of range, 1,000 kilometers, and a consumption rating of more than 6 miles per kilowatt hour, which would make it one of the longest range on the market. I mean, yes, that's what we're all targeting, isn't it? But and that'd be wonderful. And let's see. So for roadmap, I'm going to give them a 7, and the reason I'm not giving them an 8 is because until the prices are more comparable to their ICE vehicles, because there are a lot of Mercedes buyers who will spend 40, 50,000, who will absolutely not spend 130,000. Yeah, because
that's true.
That's a completely different range.
Yeah. So on that point or this regard, I would say I would include in this roadmap, I would include the Drive Pilot. That's also very important because that's software as a service. And this is an advantage that Mercedes has in comparison to the rest of the German automakers, is they have a somewhat compelling, drive assistant, I would call it. I mean, it's level 3 on paper. Of course, it engages every time it can. So every crack they get, low standing sun, we have to disengage now, or stuff like this. But their R&D is very far in that sense. Is it comparable to FSD from Tesla? No, I wouldn't say so. I would say Tesla has a much higher edge on this technology, but still from the German OEM, from the German manufacturers, they're on top in that sense. And they already have level 3, which is great, so you can read your newspaper while driving, but or be on the phone by law. So this works by law, even in Germany, which was crazy for me to hear. So I would give them, for the roadmap, I would say an 8, because I see them, because I think I gave, what did I gave BMW the last time?
4.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, okay, like a 7 or 8. You could put it in that ballpark. I think, because Mercedes with the range and everything, I believe them that they could reach this. So I would give it an 8.
Let me ask you a
But
question
Tesla
about
would
that.
be in 10 in that comparison.
Let me ask you a question about the level 3 in Germany, because in the U.S., it only works in Nevada. It only works on 1 or 2 roads, which are highways. It only works up to 30, 35 miles an hour, even though the speed limit is like 70.
Yep.
It only works in certain weather, and it only works when you're following a vehicle at a certain distance. So that is very restrictive.
Yeah.
That is a scenario where
it's not usable, actually.
It's not
just
usable.
It's an traffic jam assistant right now.
Yeah, that's what I've called it as well. Is traffic jam assist.
Yeah, but
Okay.
what you have to keep in mind on that point is that still Mercedes is very restrictive in that sense, because it's very careful moving forward. They could do more miles. They could be faster. They tested with 120 kilometers and stuff like this already. That's what I've heard. So, but still, they are pretty cautious with the lawmaker, and baby steps. They are doing baby steps, but they are rolling out slowly that the lawmakers are comfortable. But I think the way Tesla is doing it with the beta, with the FSD beta, is a much better approach. But this won't work in Germany, of course, because in Germany our laws are too restrictive for a nationwide test like Tesla is doing it. So we can't do this stuff here. Sadly.
Sure. So what do you think the score is compared to BMW? And I'll tell you this, on the chart, they are right next to each other. Which one came in higher, do you think?
I think Mercedes.
Yeah. It came in 4 points higher at 72, putting it pretty close to the top of the chart.
Okay.
Right above BMW and above Ford, Hyundai, Toyota, and of course, all the others. Very good stuff. Thanks as always to my patrons who get early access, bonus content, all that good stuff. For the rest of you guys, subscribe. But what you got to do is tell us, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? And remember, there's another little gem coming up here where I'm going to show you the thumbnails we didn't use from the AI. And got to check out TeslaFix. Jan does great work, and I enjoy having him on the show. And for some reason, when I did this AI image generation for this, you can't see it. I'll send it. You'll see it later. But the first Mercedes it gave me appears to have a robot sloth driving it. And some of them are just genuinely beautiful for some reason. And this one's got, all I can say is Moana, who went through a transporter that didn't work very well. And it keeps giving me these very strange, scary females in the picture. So maybe that's the future of electric Mercedes is
we don't know.
is monsters or a robot sloth. Okay, stay tuned, stay juicy. Can't wait to hear from you clever robots on the next installment, hopefully with Jan.
All right, bye everybody. Thank you for watching.